They put that.
Thank you all for coming.
This was the point of part-time.
Thank you all for coming.
So we just something.
We're going to go ahead and start. There's probably a handful of guys who are still coming in, but that's all right. We're going to start off because our chiefs have to leave for Chief Renicine's funeral this afternoon. We're going to try and condense some stuff. We should be done by 3-ish, so we can drive to the airport. So we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. You all stand, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Have a seat. I'm not mic'd up, so I'm going to walk. I hope you all can hear me. My name is Greg Sazanoff. I'm the Vice President of Local 3194, and I'm a career lieutenant for Roanoke County Fire and Rescue. I wanted to thank a few people first. Tobia Martin is our local president. He's provided a lot of support to us. Chief Simon here is our fire chief for Roanoke County. We also have Chief Hawk, who has given us immense guidance in trying to bring different conferences to our area. And then Chief Witt is our battalion training, who I work with to get this set up. So I want you to ask yourself, why did you come today? What are you hoping to get out of this conference? We have 2 nationally known speakers here. Chief Halton, as you know, is the editor of Fire Engineering, the preeminent magazine for the fire service. Chief Tobia has taught for years at the Virginia Fire Officers Academy, which is a new concept where we send new officers from out Virginia to a central location and teach them. And he has taught everybody who's gone through that program, including myself, has commented about what a great speaker he is, and can we not get him here? One phone call, and he said, absolutely, I'd love to come speak with you all. So I appreciate the speakers making such an effort to get here. And Toby may have had something to do with it too, I don't know.
Helps to know that.
We made sure that we invited people from all walks of life. I know Mary is here from our 911 center, and I don't know if there's any other 911 call takers here. We have the Commonwealth attorneys here. We have some law enforcement. Is there any other law enforcement besides folks I know already? Okay, thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.
Who here is carrying a weapon today? Okay, I just need to know that for my own protection, all right? I just want to make sure I'm aware of where the weapons are in the room at all times.
All right, so with that, my goal is that you all mingle, chit-chat, and that you network. So before you leave today, please find somebody else that you don't know, exchange phone numbers, emails, what have you, and come up with a better way for your system. Let's make sure that our phones are on silent for our speakers. So I'm going to turn it over to Tobia Martin. He's going to give the intros to the speakers. He's a career captain with our county with 28 years of fire service experience. So,
First off, this is the second year that our local has done an event here. Last year, Greg worked his hind end off and did a cancer symposium, brought in great speakers from across the Commonwealth. A lot of you folks were here in the room at that time. Where did you go? He sneaks out that quick. And then again this year, right off the bat, he was already thinking last year what we could do better, what we could do different. And again, like no other, he's still, again, planning for next year already. So we have an event that he'll probably announce later today, planning for next year about the same time frame for another group of speakers as well. So, Saz, I would like everybody to thank him for his hard work over the past couple of years to make these events happen. Again, like Saz said, I'm the local president here in the county. I'm also one of the captains on one of the shifts, B shift, of course, the best shift. Whatever. He's asked me to introduce our speakers. One of them I'm pretty good friends with. I think he likes me a little bit.
My wife likes you more than I do, is it true?
Thank you very much. And then Chief Halton I've dealt with several times going to FDIC, judging the honor guard competition out there. For those who are in the back, for real, please come forward and fill in some of these seats before the speaker gets ready to talk. That would be great. That way he's not trying to yell and everybody can see. So our first speaker of the morning is Chief Matt Tobia. He's the Assistant Chief of Support Services and Volunteer Administration in Loudoun County, Virginia. Metropolitan Department comprised of over 1,300 members. He has more than 29 years of diverse training experience as a firefighter, paramedic, company officer, and chief officer. This man gets it. He's went from the bottom all the way up. He served 23 years prior to Loudoun in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, where he was retired as the rank of battalion chief. He scratched out the best part of this notes that says he has a bachelor's of science, but it just says a BS degree, and I've known this guy for a long time, so I can get away with saying that. He teaches throughout the United States, contributing editor to the back page column of Fire and Rescue magazine. So in the stations on the back page, this man does a unique article every month on the hot topics going around the country right now in our job. He's also served as faculty for Pennsylvania State Fire Academy, Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute. He's a member of the IAFC and the past chairman of is Safety and Health Survival section. He actively supports the fallen firefighters' families through the command staff, and that's where I know Matt and become good friends with him about 10, 11, 12 years ago, somewhere in there, with our work at the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial. He says his team's the varsity. We know otherwise because Honor Guard's where it's at. He's a counselor at the Mid-Atlantic Burn Camp for children who are survivors of burn injuries. Chief Tobia currently resides in Percival, Virginia with his wife Jeannie, 2 children, Hannah and Doc. It's my pleasure to introduce Chief Matt Tobia, my friend, our friend of the fire service, for our first section.
Well, good morning. Good morning. Thank you for coming out today. I truly appreciate it. And I just want you to know I'm the opening act, the junior varsity for Chief Halton, who's going to come in after me, and he truly is the varsity. So whatever I can share with you this morning will absolutely positively pale in comparison for his lifetime of service and his encyclopedic knowledge of, of just about everything, to tell you the truth. So it's an honor to share the same room with him, to be perfectly honest. It is humbling and truly an honor. First of all, thank you. Thank you for being in the room this morning. Theodore Roosevelt gave a very famous speech at the Sorbonne in France, and he talked about those who are in the arena, that honor goes to those individuals who actually get in the game and participate. That there is no honor to those cold and timid souls who sit on the sidelines and criticize, but never actually engage. They're quick to point out how the doer of deeds is doing it incorrectly. They are quick to point out how something will fail before it ever has the opportunity to get out the gate. No honor comes from that. Honor comes from being in the arena. By being in this room today, you are in the arena. So I thank you for that. The next thing that I'm going to tell you is that there is no doubt in my mind, at some point this morning, I am going to say something that is going to piss you off. All right? I guarantee it. I don't expect to come into this room and have everyone leave here as devotees of how I believe the world should be or my view of leadership and how we interact with each other. But what I hope you do is leave here with one thing. If you leave here today with one piece of information that helps you be more effective, that makes it more likely that your firefighters are going to come home alive, then this has been a good day. That's the key. Put tools in your toolbox. Give you things that you can do. And I'm going to give you some very concrete things that you can do. Leave here, immediately go back to your fire stations, to your dispatch center, wherever you are, and at zero cost, $0, you're going to have the opportunity to help make your crews better. $0. Every single day we fight the battles of not having enough money, not having enough resources, not having enough whatever that is. Most of that is beyond our control. What I hope I can leave here today with is giving you some things that don't cost any money to improve. Toby, you had your chance, you're done. Go sit down.
I've got control of the speaker.
All right? The other thing that you're going to find very quickly is I'm a little passionate about the fire service. Just a little bit, all right? Is it okay to call you Mike?
Yes, sir.
Cap, I'll call you Cap, all right? So invariably, here's what happens, all right? We're going to get to a break. In about, a little while, we're going to get to a break. Mike here is going to walk up to me. He's going to be like, Chief, stop yelling at us, okay? We're on your side. We're with you. You don't need to yell at us, all right? But here's the thing. How many of you can recall a time when you were a small child, maybe in 2nd grade, you were sent to music class, and all the kids go to music class, and the music teacher would give you music, and they would say, stand up and sing. And all the little boys would stand up, and their mouths would move, but no sound was coming out of their mouths. No sound was coming out of their mouths. You cannot, for 1 second, tell me that you're committed to bringing your firefighters home alive, and then in the very next instant go out and engage in behaviors that are patently unsafe. You do not get credit for being in church on Sunday. You have to live a life that is different than other people. You do not get credit for being in church on Sunday and think that that is the sum total of the commitment that you have to give. Safety is a consequence of action, not wishful thinking. Firefighters go home alive because we purposefully engage in making sure that that happens, not because we simply hope that in the given 24-hour period, our phone doesn't ring with the news that one of our firefighters did not go home. It is a consequence of action. So if you want to be part of the choir, my answer to you is you need to sing louder. It's not enough to be in the choir loft. It's not enough to be in the room. The only thing you get credit for by being in the room is showing up. After that, it's all about your actions. It is not about your words. It is not about your words. I want to talk a little bit about my department for just a second. I'm extraordinarily blessed, unbelievably, tremendously blessed to be part of one of the fastest growing fire departments in the United States of America. And I tell you that because I think it's important to understand context. Now, I spent 23 years in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, a big, giant combination fire department, very fiscally conservative county, where we were running driver only or 2 people on apparatus. Does that sound familiar with the world that some of you are living in? All right? Absolutely. I now live in what is known as one of the wealthiest counties in the United States. Currently the wealthiest county in Virginia. 33 people a day move into Loudoun County. Think about that for a sec. 33 people a day, not a month, per day are moving into Loudoun County. Metro's coming into Loudoun County. We are growing faster than we can keep pace with it. And our demands for service are growing faster than we can keep pace with it. We could very easily ask for 200 positions today and fill every one of those positions with the needs that we have in our community. But of course, that's not realistic, and we know that. 520 square miles, about 500 career people, 800 active volunteer responders as well. And when I say active volunteers, I mean they're actually minimum staffing their stations at night on duty. We have 2 organizations in our county that are 100% volunteer, and they staff their stations 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in the stations, because we do not allow home response. Now, I came from South Central Pennsylvania. I started out on home response. I had an extraordinary opportunity to come up through that system. Fire rescue and EMS, we do, including transport. In 2016, we were handling about 30,000 calls, which really, for our population, is low. We should be running about 45,000 calls a year. If 80% of your calls are EMS related, why are we only running 30,000 calls a year? Because the median age in our county is 33. 33-year-old people are incredibly healthy. They don't suffer many medical emergencies. So our demands for service are going to go up exponentially as our population ages over time. We staff our engine companies with 3. We staff our ladder companies and our single heavy rescue for the entire county, 1 heavy rescue for the entire county, with 4. Why? Why do we staff with that? Because we're sitting on a VOSH citation from Meadowwood Court. Many of you should remember what happened at Meadowwood Court, where we nearly killed 4 firefighters and did result in the retirement of Bones, who came out of the 2nd floor of the house on fire. Jumped from the 2nd story on fire, but didn't fall 2 stories because it was 2 in the front and 3 in the rear, so when he landed, he had actually fallen 3 stories. That was in 2008. So we're sitting on a VOSH citation that says that we are not a rural county, and we cannot staff in accordance with rural county standards. We need to staff in accordance with urban standards. Are we there yet? Nope. Absolutely positively not, because we're not staffing our engine companies with 4. We're staffing them with 3. We are also a tale of 2 counties. If you're familiar with Loudoun County at all, right down through the middle of the county, north to south, from the Maryland line straight down through to the Fauquier-Prince William County line is U.S. Route 15. West of 15 is rural. East of 15 is urban and developed. Data centers, 70% of the world's internet traffic flows through Loudoun County. 70%. Again, all of this is context, so you understand the perspective of the individual who's standing in front of you. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. We have outstanding people, young, dedicated people who actually embrace change extremely well. Because we've been growing so fast, they have no choice but to embrace that change. It's amazing. It has been an absolutely positively amazing ride. In the 3 years that I've been there, I tell people that we are mock idiot. We are mock idiot. That's how fast we are moving. And it's exciting, but it also creates change. Change creates fear. Fear creates disequilibrium. Disequilibrium causes planes to auger over and drive into the ground. So balancing that is a huge piece of what we do. Over the past 10 years, and really since 2004, since 2004, the conversation in the American Fire Service has changed. What happened in 2004? Anybody know? How did we start talking about safety in the fire service? I mean, publicly. Not just the crazy safety zealots who were always over in a corner having their Safety Officer Association meetings talking about how we could bring our firefighters home alive. How did the American Fire Service start talking about safety on a broad range? Anybody know what happened in 2004? This is the participatory part of the program. This is the engagement part. All right? Anybody know? 16 life safety initiatives. Everybody heard of those? The very first Life Safety Initiative Summit was held. Chief Sarnicki, with the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation, spearheaded an effort to get a group of people together to start talking about how to reduce preventable line of duty deaths. Preventable line of duty deaths. Because what we found, and what the group of people that went to that conference really believed, was they were tired of putting on their Class A uniform and going to funerals for firefighters who should not have died. Who should not have died. Out of that started this huge, huge effort to talk about reducing preventable line of duty deaths. And we have seen a steady and significant drop. Of course, at that time, the goal was 25% reduction in 5 years, 50% reduction in 10 years, and everybody in the room was like, okay, somebody needs to go drug test Chief Sarnicki, because that's not a realistic goal. And yet, we have, in fact, made significant progress in some areas. We have dramatically reduced the number of traumatic line of duty deaths. We have dramatically reduced the number of vehicle collision deaths. We have dramatically reduced the number of fireground and training deaths. We have yet to make a significant dent in cardiac deaths. And now, certainly the biggest, hottest topic right now in the American Fire Service relating to firefighter health, wellness, and safety is what? Cancer. Everybody knows that word. All right? Everyone knows that word. And the thing is, the reason that we're so quick to embrace that is because that word scares the hell out of us. That word has scared the hell out of us since we were small children. Since day one, that word has scared us because the word cancer equates to what? Death. That's exactly right. It equates to death. Absolutely, positively. So the conversation has changed. Now we are demanding that firefighters be thinking firefighters, that they be smart, that they actually think. They are not robots. This is a thinking person's job. And when I say job, I don't mean career. I don't mean your pay status. The task that you perform. As we have done that, and as we have asked firefighters to embrace that change, we have also seen a continued vocal discussion about robbing the fire service of all of our very best traditions. And there are essentially what has come to be known, and I'm oversimplifying it, but what has come to be known as the group who support extinguishment and the group who support safety. And the extinguishment guys say what? What do the extinguishment guys say? Right? Put the damn fire out! If you just put the fire out, everything gets better. If you spent half as much time putting the fire out as you do filling incident command vests, everything would be much better. So instead of worrying about ICS and filling command roles and building, command teams and focusing on science or whatever it is, just put the fire out. And realize that there are a group of individuals who are equally dedicated and equally vocal and just as committed to the fire service, who are saying, we do not trade firefighters' lives. We do not trade firefighters' lives. When you have to ride that incredibly fine line of risk versus benefit, that incredibly fine line, and that is a razor-thin line of risking a lot to get a lot, we all want that to occur. And sometimes that will cut for us, and sometimes it will cut against us. But if we go to Emmitsburg right now and look on the wall, and you point out to me the number of firefighters that have died trying to put their hands on a person whose life they were charged with saving. Can you name one right now, off the top of your head? One firefighter, right? Kevin Apuzio. I'll give you one. All right? Kevin Apuzio in New Jersey goes into a structure fire with confirmed entrapment. Gets on the scene, chief says, she's in the back bedroom. Go get her. What's Kevin do? Goes and gets her. That's exactly right. He gets to the back bedroom. She's alive. Right? He is now putting himself between harm and a citizen who we were sworn to protect. He's doing exactly what we want him to do. He's going to drag her out. They're dragging out. They're going out. They're going out. His partner's leading him. It's getting bad. Just as they get towards the front door, what happens? Floor collapses. That's exactly right. Kevin and the woman fall into the basement and die. But that's not how most of us die. And what we find too often is that we have individuals who are using the cloak of extinguishment to excuse what I will call patently unsafe behaviors in an effort to sustain the status quo. My point to you is that these are not mutually exclusive. It is possible to be committed to being an aggressive interior firefighter and still be committed to bringing your crews home alive. It's as if one is somehow mutually exclusive from the other. They're not. They are not mutually exclusive. But you have to be smarter than the enemy that you face. Anybody ever heard of Francis Brannigan? All right, put your hand up. All right, Francis Brannigan. Yeah, all the older guys, right, who've been around for a while? Absolutely. His third edition of the building construction for the fire service has all but disappeared from the list of promotional exam materials, which is a crime, because all that's doing is guaranteeing that we are doomed to repeat history. You have to know your enemy. You have to know the playing field or the battlefield that you are going to be on. You have to know what is going on in your communities. In communities like this one right now, older communities right now, every day what you're seeing are old style buildings being gutted on the interior, having the interior structural members replaced with lightweight aluminum truss. But on the outside of the building, what does it look like? Looks like old mill construction. So from the outside, you're like, it's an old mill constructed building. We can fight fire in that. How long do we have in that? How much time do we have to fight fire in an old mill constructed building? All day long, right? All day long. When in reality, it's a total death trap. You have to be smarter than your enemy. The other thing that I think it's important to do is understand staffing in the real world. How many people have ever heard of John Salka? Right? John Salka, retired battalion chief out of the Bronx in New York City, an unbelievably intelligent, capable, honorable man who has dedicated literally his entire life to the fire service, has been to tens of thousands of fires. Everybody who ever stands in front of you is necessarily a product of their environment. I am a product of my environment. I'm a product of my experience. So when John Salka talks about strategy and tactics, what is he basing that on? His experience. In where? In the FDNY. Now raise your hand if you're staffing your engines with 6 and your ladders with 6. What? Look around the room. Right? In New York City, because of the population density and because of the unbelievable gridlock on traffic, they have a huge number of engine companies and ladder companies. 200 plus engine companies, 100 plus ladder companies, 5 heavy rescues, numerous special services personnel, and they can put upwards of 50 firefighters on the scene of a fire within 10 minutes. Anybody doing that in this room? Now, here's the thing to understand. A 2.5-story wood frame single family dwelling in the Bronx that my grandparents bought and grew up in, my dad grew up in, all right, burns the exact same way as a 2.5-story wood frame single family dwelling right here. They burn the same way. The laws of physics don't change. The number of tasks that need to be done on that structure fire don't change. What changes is the order in which you can get them done. Whether they have to get done linearly, one at a time because of limited staffing, or they get done simultaneously because there are sufficient personnel to make that happen. One of the biggest dangers is to send young kids to conferences, programs, have them sit in a classroom and get all excited about the challenge, about bringing strategy and tactics and talking about VES and talking about the can man and the ads and doing all these things. And we're going to have, we're going to have the interior crew and the exterior crew, and we're going to have all these different operations. We're going to do all this simultaneously, and this is how we need to be doing it. And then they come home and they want to take those urban strategy and tactics in the most urbanized point in the world and do what? Cat, this is what we have to do. You don't understand. This guy, he taught us how to do it. This is what the only way that we can do it is this way. Always ensure that you are matching your strategy and tactics to the reality of the world that you live in. The military, U.S. Coast Guard, Wildland Fire Service all have things called rules of engagement. Rules of engagement. They have a playbook that they follow. In the U.S. Coast Guard, you see this on TV all the time. You see, Coast Guard rescue, and you see the helicopter crews going out, and you see them inserting rescue swimmers into an incident. In the pilot's mind, in the decision-making tree of whether or not he or she is going to allow that rescue swimmer to leave that aircraft based on the incident scene, is that the first choice they have or the last choice they have? Last. Why? Why is it last? What? Risk, right? How risky is it? It's extremely risky. And it is so risky, in fact, that there are instances when the pilot says, no. I realize that there are lives in danger. I get it. But no. Why? Because the pilot's not willing to trade the life of that rescue swimmer. And that rescue swimmer is not going out that door unless the pilot has a very high expectation that that swimmer is coming back. Rules of engagement. Highly disciplined, highly trained, incredibly dedicated individuals who I would argue are facing the exact same life and death decisions that we have to face. And yet, despite all of that, despite a set of rules of engagement now for the American Fire Service that were developed by the International Association of Fire Chiefs, despite all that, despite everything that's happened in the last 14 years, we still see this. You tell me, right? Major urban fire department. Thankfully, the non-reinforced load-bearing wall on side Charlie is gone, so you get to see all the firefighters. See all the firefighters? See all the firefighters? See the floor unsupported? Right? That's a major urban fire department operating in today's world. You tell me, that floor collapses, those firefighters upstairs fall on top of the firefighters downstairs and kill 4 of them. What are we all going to do?
Dress up in Class A's.
That's exactly right, Cap. We're all going to put on our Class A uniforms. We're going to go to that city, and we're going to call them what? Heroes. Are they? Yes. Why? Because of the life they lived, but certainly not because of the way they died. Because in reality, they did not die heroically trying to save a savable life. They didn't even die trying to save a savable building. They died because we murdered them. Here's a company officer bringing a knife to a gunfight, right? And again, every second of every minute of every hour of every day, we are being watched. Every second of every minute of every hour of every day, we are being watched. Rookie firefighters watch senior firefighters watch company officers watch chief officers as they attempt to learn the behaviors that they need to mimic in order to be prepared to ascend to that role of responsibility. Every second of every minute of every hour of every day, we are being watched. So if I'm a yellow helmet firefighter in this organization and I want to become an officer, I have to prove my mettle to be worthy of being an officer wearing this helmet right there. What am I doing? Right? Where's the SCBA? Why are we operating in this mode? What's the circumstances? And you know that this is working. You know that these behaviors, this variation away from what we know to be safe is going on because he's not wearing his SCBA and he's already learned what? I don't need to put my gloves on as I help stretch that line.